Well, guys, this is very significant. This is more evidence that we are seeing our solar system become more energized, and they are now seeing auroras sparking up on Jupiter's north pole. Now, I want to thank Alan for bringing my attention to this, because it is very significant when we do start seeing the planets within our solar system exhibiting this type of behavior. Now, the most significant comment in this article is from Jonathan Nichols, who is the principal investigator of the study. And he goes on to say that these auroras are very dramatic and among the most active I have ever seen. Now, when we understand the esoteric knowledge, and we know that Jupiter is equated to Zeus, and Zeus is the symbol of our creator, we know that when we are seeing this type of behavior on this planet, that it is something that we should actually be paying attention to. Because when we apply the principles of hermetics and the principle of correspondence, we know as above, so below, as below, so above. Now, this is basically showing us that everything in the universe is a macrocosm and a microcosm. And so we are fractals of the macrocosm within our universe. And when we see this type of activity happening on the planets within our solar system, then we can actually understand that this can be translated to the human experience. And this is where we have to look at the information left to us by the ancients, because they were showing this in the symbolism. Because if we can understand that the planets, including our own planet Earth, can display these auroras and halos, then we can transfer that to the human form when we use the principle of correspondence. And this is why we do see the symbolism of the halos and auroras around the divine beings within the human species. Because at certain times of the cycle, when we are more energized, when the light returns, then these divine beings amongst our human species are known for who they are. They are seen for their differences between the divine and mortal humans. This is also where the symbolism of the crown actually originates, because the original kings and queens were divine. And as we move down the cycle into the Iron Age, then we forget where these symbols originate, and then it's only those who take power that then use these symbols to crown themselves. But when we're in a more energetic part of the cycle, then these are the natural crowns that are bestowed upon the divine by the Creator, because when the light returns, then the divine element within mankind is energized and revealed, and we can see this left to us in the information from the ancients. And it's also apparent when we read the scriptures, because we can see in Daniel 12:13, it goes on to say, "And they that be wise shall shine as the brightness of the firmament, and they that turn many to righteousness as the stars forever and ever." So it's basically going on to talk about the firmament, which is Orion, and when the firmament once again brightens, then the divine element within mankind then also returns, and they start to relay the divine wisdom and knowledge to humans, mortals, and turn them to righteousness, because they then understand themselves, and then they understand how they are part of creation and what their part in creation is. And so they partake as conscious humans, conscious souls once again. So We can also see in the Gospel of Thomas that this is mentioned. And sometimes when you read Scripture, it's also what Scripture doesn't say where you can find the information. And this is why you need all of the esoteric sciences to understand how to decode the verses in the Bible and in the other Gospels and in the other religious texts. Because as a philosopher, you should not be afraid of any information. You should be able to read all of the holy books, all of the Gospels, all of the sacred texts, and you should not fear any of that information, because when you understand it correctly, you actually see the common theme. You actually see that it's all related. And basically these truths are hidden within the allegory and symbolism, so it is only the true seeker that can have an understanding for the information and wisdom that these scriptures and these sacred texts have encoded within all of these verses. Now, in the Gospel of Thomas, it goes on to say that Jesus said, when you see one who was not born of a woman, fall on your faces and worship. That one is your father. Now, the only way you would know one who was not born of a woman is if you can identify them as differently to a normal human mortal. And so when you see one who is displaying a difference to a mortal, then you know that that one is a god and one of the gods, because this is where the confusion with the modern Christians also starts. They don't understand that there's a difference between God the Creator and God the Son. And so they have misinterpreted the verses, and I see a lot of a misunderstanding when it comes to who the Son of God is, and they are now elevating Jesus above God and saying that Jesus is their creator, where Jesus is the Son of God. He is a symbol for the firstborn extension of the Creator, because the divine are extensions of the Creator, and they are manifest in the flesh on the physical plane, and this is how the Creator partakes in the physical experience through the divine, through his divine children. This is why they are his divine children. The tribes of Israel, they're also called the Olympians. We see in all the different cultures that they have left information about the gods and goddesses. And so there is no religion that's actually worshipping different gods. It's just a misunderstanding of the texts, when in fact they are talking about the children of God. They all have the one creator God, and then they are relaying the information in their mythologies and their allegory and symbolism about the sons and daughters of God. And so these are the divine. This is the divine race within mankind, the divine element within our species. And so we can see this when we look at the Gospel of Thomas, that it is basically saying that when you see one who is not born of a woman, you are going to be able to identify that human as someone different than one who is born of a woman, which is a mortal, because the divine was seated upon the physical plane. They were not created from a woman, other than the demigods who were created after the initial gold and silver tribes were seated onto the physical plane. And then you have the bronze tribes, who are the demigods. Now, I'm not going to go into all of that information. It is available on the channel if you do want to go and research into that further. But I just wanted to show you that there is evidence within the scriptures, if you know how to find it, that you can identify there's a difference between mortals and gods, or immortals, as sometimes they are called in the mythologies and the sacred texts. Now, the other verse is this one. Jesus said, I took my stand in the midst of the world, and in the flesh I appeared to them. I found them all drunk, and I did not find any of them thirsty. My soul ached for the children of humanity. because they are blind in their hearts and do not see. For they came into the world empty, and they also seek to depart from the world empty. But meanwhile they are drunk. When they shake off their wine, they will change their ways. And so this is relating to when the light returns, when the firmament illuminates and the divine element within mankind illuminates. This will happen from the first extension of the Creator through to the demigods. And so this happens in this sequence. And so Jesus, being the symbol for the avatar of the firstborn divine male of the divine race, will illuminate first. And so this is where it shows that he appears in the flesh to them. So again, we can see that we're taking Christ consciousness, we're taking that and we're basically applying it to the physical plane, as Hermetics shows us that we should do. And we're also applying it to the spiritual plane, because the spiritual is the soul. And so when the soul illuminates, this is also something that will be apparent in the physical form of the divine. And so this is what this verse is pertaining to. And he found all of them drunk, because this is just showing they do not have access to knowledge. And this doesn't actually even show a difference in which religion has more information than the other. So any Christians that think that they have truth and the Hindu don't, and the Muslims don't, and the Catholics don't, and the Hindu, don't have any information that these ones over here have. I mean, as you can see, it says that the children of humanity are all drunk and unaware of who they are and unaware of the truth. And this is because the truth has been taken from them, and they have been given a misinterpretation of the texts of the scriptures. And this goes from the head office of the Antichrist, which is the Vatican, all the way down through all of the other religions now, because they've all been infected with this basic lack of understanding and this ignorance. And this is because instead of relying on their own intellect, instead of relying on themselves to go and be a seeker of knowledge, they rely on priests to tell them what to believe. They rely on some impressive man that wears a robe standing up on a podium to read the Bible to them and tell them what it means. And this is why they will stay absolutely unaware of the truth, because they are blind in their hearts and they do not see. Because it takes courage to actually be a seeker and to look outside of this information that the church tells you is evil. If you're not taking information from the Bible, then everything else that you look at for information is evil. So if you don't have the courage to look outside of the Bible and not fear knowledge, then you will remain blind. This is what people have to understand, that are caught up in this belief that anything outside of the Catholic canon law is evil and is Luciferian or satanic, and many of the other names that come along with trying to scare people away from truth, from knowledge and wisdom. But it is needed, because if you don't understand the truth about who you are, then you are not going to actually be able to understand your place within creation, and you will remain blind. So this is why all of these events are connected. It is not just something that is scientific. This is why science and religion are fused. And even Einstein made that quote, that science and religion are fused. This is what philosophy is. Science and religion, they need each other, because otherwise you will not see and understand the complete picture. Anyway, I will leave it here, guys, and I will post this article underneath. Once again, thank you to Alan for bringing my attention to this. And as always, peace out.